When we say charge on, we commit to do extraordinary things. It's a catalyst for action. To put in the work. To keep trying. It's a challenge. To be smarter and stronger. Charge on. It drives us to be more. To get after it every day. It's time to rise above. To let them know we're coming. Charge on. Charge on.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Research, Recovery, and Reskill webinar series for the fall. This is our fourth webinar of the fall series, and thank you for joining us and taking time out of your schedule to be with us. I'm Susan Vernon-Devlin, Manager of Communications and Marketing here at the Rosen College of Hospitality Management, and I will be your moderator for this webinar. Today is part 3 of a 4-part mini workshop in a series called People Working or Not Working in Isolation, Coping Tools for the Hospitality Industry. These 4 workshops are in collaboration with the UCF Department of Psychology and will be presented by world-class researchers outside of the hospitality industry. Before we get started, first a bit of housekeeping. Attendees, we will use the question and answer feature only for this webinar. You can place your questions and your comments in that feature. We will respond to your questions at the end of the presentation, and so please keep that in mind as we go through this. If your question is the same or similar as another question that has been asked, we will only respond once. If we don't get to your question during the webinar, rest assured we will try and contact you afterwards to answer your question. And now I would like to introduce Dr. Kristen Horan, an assistant professor in the Industrial Organizational Psychology program at the University of Central Florida. Dr. Horan is the Deputy Director of Program Administration for the Targeted Research Training Program, or TRT. In this role, she organizes and evaluates each semester's Targeted Research Training Program workshop. Dr. Horan will provide a brief overview of the TRT program and introduce today's speaker. Dr. Horan.
Thank you, Susan. I want to extend a warm welcome to everyone viewing this webinar. We're so happy that you're here today to learn about a topic of great importance to the hospitality industry. Our people may be adjusting to isolation as they are at home or adapting to new work procedures. And during this series, our expert speakers will offer insights on how to cope with this new isolation. Next slide, please. This series is brought to you through a collaboration between Rosen College of Hospitality Management and the Targeted Research Training Program. I introduced the mission and activities of targeted research training on previous webinars, so today I'll just provide a brief overview here for our new viewers. Targeted Research Training is a program housed within the University of Central Florida Psychology Department that performs cutting-edge research on methods to improve workplace health and safety, provides graduate training to help develop the next generation of occupational health and safety professionals, and performs outreach services, such as this webinar series for both academic and industry environments. Next slide, please. Our program is part of a larger group called the Sunshine Education and Research Center at the University of South Florida, which is funded by the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health. Next slide, please. The research, training, and outreach activities of the Targeted Research Training Program are multifaceted, interdisciplinary, and collaborative. I'd like to thank our core faculty members from the University of Central Florida Industrial Organizational Psychology Program and the Rosen College of Hospitality Management, our multidisciplinary and multi-institution research team, and our advisory board partners. We look forward to continuing our research, training, and outreach services to better understand and improve hospitality health and safety. On that note, this webinar series will be evaluated with a short survey that will be sent out after next week's webinar. We hope that you'll participate so that we can continue to build our outreach and research services. Next slide, please. Now we turn our attention to today's topic. While isolation is relatively new for the hospitality industry, employees in other occupations routinely deal with isolation. Today's speaker will offer insights from the perspective of astronauts. Dr. Lauren Blackwell Landon is the Team Risk Discipline Scientist in the Human Factors and Behavioral Performance element, part of NASA Human Research Program. She is also a scientist in NASA's Behavioral Health and Performance Laboratory. Her research investigates teams in extreme environments, examining the influence of individual team-oriented characteristics, teamwork processes, and team cognition as it affects team performance and functioning. Dr. Landon is also a member of the award-winning NASA astronaut selection team and trains team skills to astronauts and flight controllers. She previously worked as an organizational development consultant at the Department of Energy's Oak Ridge National Laboratory and as a human factors researcher for the Federal Aviation Administration. She has worked on research projects funded by the U.S. Army, U.S. Navy, Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, and National Science Foundation, among other organizations. She earned all 4 of her degrees from the University of Oklahoma, including her PhD in industrial organizational psychology. It's my great pleasure to turn the presentation over to Dr. Lauren Blackwell Landon.
Thank you, Kristen. You guys can hear me and see me okay?
We can hear you.
Okay, great. I think someone else is driving the slides for me. There we go. Okay. So thank you for joining me this morning. I'm coming to you from Houston, which is where we have our NASA Human Research Program. Of course, Houston is the home of the astronauts. And so we do a lot of the research and the hands-on training and development with the astronauts here at Johnson Space Center. And my specific focus in my research is our long-term mission to Mars. And it's always been about 20 years away. We're hoping to get there in the 2030s. And of course, our near-term focus is to reach the moon again in the 2020s, probably about 2024 is our goal. So that's really kind of the long-term thought, is to get out beyond the space station and low Earth orbit into these more dangerous environments. And then when you go to Mars, you're also looking at communication delays from Earth. And so it becomes a whole new ballgame of how you're going to work as a team in these really dangerous, extremely isolated environments. Next slide.
Lauren, while we're waiting for the next slide, we have gotten a few comments in the Q&A that the sound is breaking up.
Oh, that's not good. Okay. I'm not sure. I don't see anything going on with my tech.
If it continues to be a problem, you may want to take your video off, because that could kind of reduce the bandwidth.
Yeah, that could be it. Okay, just let me know.
Sounds
okay.
good.
For the environmental stressors of space, you guys, you think about microgravity, that's a big one. We also have things like space radiation once you leave the atmosphere of the Earth. There's lots of vibration, there's lots of noise in the space station or in space vehicles. If you go to planets, you have to deal with the dust, and that's often very harsh. And they have whole research programs looking at how to deal with the dust that comes along from these tiny little particles. You have altered light and dark cycles. So, of course, when you go to Mars, the days are not the same length as Earth. And so how are you going to adjust your sleeping to that? And you're also thinking about the high level of carbon dioxide on board, because we have scrubber machines that try to take care of that, but they're not always running at peak efficiency. And over time, they wear out. So you're starting to get headaches and other negative side effects from that. If you look over where I've circled on the red, those are really the things that I, as a psychologist, concentrate on. The other areas are more in the realm of medical research, human factors research. In the psych research, we're thinking about sensory deprivation. So you're not going to feel the wind on your face while you go to Mars for almost 3 years. You're in an extremely confined environment. Obviously we can't launch giant habitats up there. It's very expensive to launch. So you have to make them pretty small. You're very isolated while you're there, right? So it's almost like being deployed on a military mission to an extreme degree. And once you get further out from the Earth, a communication delay kicks in as you send signals back and forth. And so you won't even be able to talk to your family in real time for almost 3 years. And then, of course, you have a lack of privacy in these small environments. You have lots of things you're trying to get done. The workload will be very heavy. So it seems like there's going to be a lot of stressors going on, not just to physically your body, but also mentally to just the environment, and you're responding to the environment. I'm going to go ahead and stop my video just to see if that helps the issue. Okay, next slide. So when we look at the current spaceflight operations, the top of the screen, you see the International Space Station. So it's very large. It's about the size of a football field, and the part that's in that red rectangle in the middle there, that's mostly the habitable part. So they have a decent amount of room, relatively speaking for space. It's about the size of a 4-bedroom house. They have private crew quarters. They have a couple bathrooms up there, one on the U.S. side, one on the Russian side. So we like to say that it's fairly comfortable in the space station for them. They also have things like real-time communications with their family, with folks in mission control. They have resupply, so they get care packages periodically. They get to do things like PR events, or each astronaut gets to pick whoever they want to talk to once during their mission. So a lot of them pick celebrities or personal heroes like that. So they get a lot of extra kind of activities that keep them psychologically healthy. And of course, they have good exercise up there. They have a lot of good equipment to manage the environment and manage their physical fitness as well. When we switch into these future long duration missions, that's at the lower bottom of your screen, you have a big rocket ship there, but that tiny little circle towards the far left of that football field, that's the Orion capsule. And so that plus another small vehicle that'll link onto that is what will be going to orbit the moon and what they'll be traveling in to go to Mars. So think about that with 4 to 6 of your very closest coworkers. There's a lot of tension and stress. You have to find the right people that can handle that, be resilient, but also find the right mix of people to put together and maintain that crew cohesion or closeness and coordination over that long duration mission of almost 3 years. So it's going to be a lot of fatigue that sets in, and a lot of that isolating feeling sets in as well. Slide. Okay. Scott Kelly, you might have heard this on the news, but he, a couple years ago, went on a 1-year mission. And it was sort of our first foray into looking at what happens to the human body under these longer and longer durations. And so him and his Russian cosmonaut colleague, Kuryenko, there in the picture, they went up together for almost a year. And he has this great memoir, if you guys have a chance to read it. One of the quotes says, "Every day I was exposed to 10 times the radiation of a person on Earth, which will increase my risk of fatal cancer for the rest of my life. Not to mention the psychological stress, which is harder to quantify and perhaps just as damaging." So the astronauts themselves, even though they're extremely resilient, recognize how challenging that environment is to their mental well-being. Just being isolated and far from their families and friends is very difficult. Slide. And so we tried to mimic this in our research on Earth, and we don't get into the microgravity so much when we're looking at the team relationships and interpersonal relationships. So we can do a lot of our research on the ground. We have these wonderful analog environments. Hera at the top of your screen, top middle of your screen, that's actually the Johnson Space Center campus. We can put people in there for a few weeks at a time, stress them out on a mission simulation, and see how they respond to things. And then you have some that are under the water, some on the side of a volcano, you have some in Antarctica. So these are very remote, high fidelity simulations. And we also have some in comparable industries. So like healthcare, you have a team of highly trained folks come together for a job and try to work together as a acute care or surgical team. You have military units that are deployed and isolated from each other. And so what can we learn from all these different environments about how teams, how individuals function in a psychological way? Next slide. So we've done a lot of research, and we found kind of some trends that you can pull out from all these isolated environments. So there's lots of physical things that kind of play together with the psychological. So you have people withdrawing, you have them increasing in their irritability and tension and depression symptoms. And that manifests in things like you can't concentrate, you may have memory problems, you might have insomnia, you're more susceptible to illness as your immune system is taking a hit. And so it's really important to take care of your mental well-being and your physical well-being, because those two things really build off each other, and that one can boost the other and vice versa. And so you see we're moving more and more into a direction of neuroscience. So the brain is really the hub of everything that happens in your body. So if you're feeling physically fit, it actually helps your brain. And the brain is really the main stimulus of where your psychological mental health comes from. So you keep your whole body and your psyche healthy, and it helps your brain stay healthy, and it continues down that path of health, but you have to maintain it. So next slide. You see over time, we had some space station research that as time goes on, you do see some negative psychological effects, right? So the shuttle astronauts, they're only up there for a couple weeks at a time during their shuttle missions. And you hear them commonly say something to the effect of, you can live with anyone for 2 weeks, right? So as you live with someone for 3 months, 6 months in this isolated and confined environment, you see the level of conflict on that left-hand graph. That level of conflict will slowly increase over time. And then on the right-hand side, you see the ratings of positivity, group interaction positivity, slowly decline over time. So even though you have these wonderful, resilient people, they start to feel worn out over time. They start to feel the effects over time. So if you're feeling like this is dragging on and on right now during the pandemic, yes, it is a very common occurrence. Even the most resilient folks in the world will have those same sort of feelings. Next slide. So in order to combat some of that, our group, our element, as we call it, has put together a wonderful sort of a kind of rule of thumb that you can think about and try to remember. And this is all available on the NASA website. I have an address for you guys too. And it's called CONNECT. So each letter in this acronym means something very special. Next slide. And so you can try to use this to bolster your own mental health well-being while you're in this extreme situation. So the first C is community. And when we think of community here, we're thinking about community with all of humanity, all of the people around us, with nature. And so astronauts, they're cut off from the world. They're cut off from their friends and family. And they know that this isolation is taxing on them. And so one thing to think about is how we're all in this pandemic together in some ways, right? It's affecting every country on Earth. Everyone is having to change part of their lifestyle or change the way they do things because of this. And so we are connected to humanity in that way. One thing that really brought the world together back in the 60s was the moon landing. And so, we had tens of millions of people all over the world watching the moon landing, participating in this as a human community. And so that's one way to think about the pandemic as a human community. Next slide. And then when you're thinking about connecting to nature, it's very healthy for NASA astronauts to look down out of the windows of the space station and see the Earth, see that green and blue, connect to nature. And they have done some experiments on board, growing plants on board, and they find that the astronauts really enjoy having that small connection to nature while they're up in space. And so It helps them also get in touch with the soil. They smell it. They can see the green. They can taste it and touch it. Some of these plants actually get to harvest and eat while they're on board. And just tending for the plants is a stress reliever. So if there's a way that you could find some of this in your own life, of course, everybody's really big on taking walks right now and trying to get outside and finding that connection to nature. That's a very important psychological boost for you. Next page. Next slide. The next one is O for openness. And we have found in past research that folks that are more open to different experiences tend to be more resilient. You're tending to approach a problem as a way to address life's challenges and adapt to what you see. And those folks that are more open to things or approach them in a more open mindset say, okay, I can meet this challenge. They find that they're more positive, they're more helpful with others trying to meet the challenge, and they're more flexible. So if you approach things with an openness mindset, it can actually help you deal and overcome those challenges much more easily. So of course, we're all dealing with a new way of maybe working or living right now. We have lots of people doing teleworking or virtually visiting with friends. So think about new ways of being flexible to continue living your life and finding the support system that you need. Next page. And then when you see networking for N, this is really talking about more of that family communication, community with the folks around you. So, getting outside and getting to know your neighbors or the people in your immediate vicinity a little bit better, finding ways to connect with home, be that virtually. Maybe you make more phone calls now than you did in the past to connect more with people because you can't go out and meet them for different things, or you can't be around your work colleagues. So maybe you can find different ways to meet with them more often. And then you hear things that are fairly creative that people do, drive-by birthday celebrations, or other things like that to maintain that connectedness. And so we at NASA do similar things. So they have lots of things provided to them. They can get family contacts and have special events on board for their birthdays, for etc. And then they get training on the psychological factors of long duration flight. So this is some of the training. Hopefully these tips will help you today. And they also seek out a lot of behavioral medicine support. So they, of course, have a flight surgeon on board that checks the physical health, but they have an operational psychologist and psychiatrist on call that they meet with regularly throughout their missions to make sure that their mental state is in a good place. And so if you're feeling that side kind of get neglected, or you're kind of going into a downward dark place, it's really important to reach out to people and make sure that you're able to still virtually meet with that psychological help that you may need. Next slide. And then we go to the second N, which is needs. And so this is needs related to your physiological health. So emotional health and psychological health is very much tied to your body health. So there you'll see one of our astronauts on the treadmill in space, and they work out a couple hours a day just to maintain their bone, muscle, and brain health. It's very important to them. They eat right, they eat healthy things. They make sure that they get enough sleep, which is challenging in space. Your body doesn't necessarily like to sleep in space. It's very weird for microgravity. But they have set bedtimes, wake times, eating times, exercise times. They make sure that they create a comfortable environment while they're doing all these things so that it supports them physically. And you'll see that if you have a healthy body, it feeds into having a healthy interaction with those around you, which feeds into the healthy behaviors and the healthy community that you build. And so keeping yourself, that self-care, is very important to cascading down the line with all the other people that you're interacting with. Next slide. We do a lot with the sleep research lab at NASA as well. And you'll see over time, as you're, I've heard some people have started to alter their sleep-wake cycles because they don't have a set schedule anymore. Their schedules are different. They tend to stay up later. Over time, that can become taxing. And so it's important that you stick to a regular sleep schedule if you can. because those, we like to call them fancy words, neurocognitive deficits. It just means maybe you get a little foggy in your brain. It accumulates over time as you get less and less regular sleep. And so you got to maintain that physical health as well. And we've seen changes in behaviors, changes in the way that teams interact when they're undergoing sleep deprivation or chronic fatigue in these analog environments. So like, you're not going to communicate as much as you would. You're not going to give social support as much as you would, or help others, or provide feedback. And so that also impacts the people around you as well. So your families and colleagues around you as well. So it's really up to the entire community to try to maintain that physical health over time. Next slide. And now we come to E, which is the expeditionary mindset. So of course you're going on these wonderful space expeditions. They train the astronauts on how to do this. Wouldn't it be nice if we all got training before this pandemic on how to go into this very difficult situation? So they have 5 major expeditionary skills they're trained. So teamwork and group living, team care, self-care and self-management, leadership, followership, and communication. And they also get training on kind of more basic things like stress management, conflict management, and then working with people from different cultures because it is an international space community. So one thing to keep in mind here is that the astronauts do live and work together. So you can take some of these skills, not just in your work environment or the people that you're interacting with professionally, but think about how you're living with those folks. Are you tidying up after yourself? That's actually a very critical thing on the space station, to just make sure your space is tidy for the next person that comes along. Are you checking in with your teammates? Hey, you look really tired today. Why don't I take a little bit of your burden? You go take a nap. So you kind of check in with everybody, see how your friends and family's mental health is going, so maybe you can support them. And self-care, self-management, that goes back to the physiological and exercise, eating right, leadership, followership. It's kind of easy to quantify that in a more workplace environment as you're doing projects and things like in a more home environment. Can you take on certain tasks to help out your family? Can you maybe be the organizer for, the big every couple weeks Zoom call with your extended family? So there are ways to do that. And then followership, of course, is whoever is leading that, can you find a way to proactively support that person so that they are successful in what they do? And communication, of course, maintaining that communication. If you're in isolation, it's very easy to start to withdraw because communication becomes more of an effort. So make sure that you're reaching out, but also make sure that you let others know that you need them to reach out to you as well. And don't be shy about that. People tend to think that they're bothering people, but a lot of times those other people want to be there and support you as well. Next slide. And so we select astronauts for, I'll just give you a couple of examples here, for small group living. So being tolerant of different people and differences between your personalities and the way that you do things. If you're trapped together right now with your family, maybe small things are starting to add up and kind of grate on you. There's frictions that are coming. But if you can step back and think, we're all in this together. We can get through this. We got to support each other, finding ways to navigate those personal needs and boundaries between each other. That's going to help you in the long run maintain that team relationship. And then autonomy and independence. So what can I do on my own to keep working, to feel like I have some control over the situation? Find ways that you can maybe solve some problems or get things done on your own. And that'll help you in your psychological state of mind as well. Next slide. And then we come to the next C, which is countermeasures. And this is talking more about your psychological countermeasures. So astronauts are trained on things like mindfulness and other coping strategies that help them ease the stress and reframe situations that are potentially negative, and think about how maybe there could be a positive that comes from this, or how you can approach the situation in a more positive way to overcome challenges. The astronauts journal while they're on board, and many of them say it's very helpful to them. So I have an excerpt here on the slide. It says, "Thanks, journal. Venting complete. I feel much better now." It's funny. A bunch of hours later, and I'm completely over the issue. Not a care in the world about it. Glad I could vent to my journal and not via email, because that could be catastrophic to my career. So, think of ways that maybe journaling could help you, or meditating could help you, or engaging in activities. Maybe you're a reader, you can escape to your reading, to do things that can help you sort of reprocess or reframe and express your feelings in a healthy way. And there's also ways that you can do these activities together as a family. Maybe you all engage in some walks around the block together, and so that can help you sort of reset. Next slide. And then finally, training. And you'll see there the website that NASA set up towards the beginning of the pandemic, specifically to help people think about the ways they can apply these things to their own lives during this extreme time. The astronauts do tons of training. That's basically their job, is to train for their small time in space. And so they prepare extensively, knowing that the environment is going to be challenging. So we know now that the environment is challenging in this pandemic, in this isolation. And so how can we continue, not just one time think about, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to try really hard. Continue, every day, maybe you just try to be mindful about, I'm going to approach situations as a challenge, and I'm going to keep practicing these skills of, stress relief and managing my diet and my exercise, and retain those skills over time so that you can maintain your health over time as well. And reflect on the strengths. I'm sure all of you have strengths you could think about right now that can help you through this challenging time. And learning how to build on those strengths to get you through this even better is another thing you can think about as well. So thinking about the past challenges you've overcome, that's also a very healthy thing to do. So if you need more resources, NASA's got some. I know there's lots of other areas out there that are trying to support people during this time too. So seek those resources out and think about the ways that you can apply your unique skill set to this very weird time. And with that, last slide, I'll take some questions.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Landon. We don't have any questions in our question and answer feature right now, but I have a question. As the pandemic has gone on, we're into 7 months now. We're starting to go back into winter in parts of the country, and isolation is going to be even more of a problem as the weather gets colder. The connect feature that you talked about, is there anything specific in there that those who are in colder climates should really focus on to keep their well-being going?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because you're going to be probably trapped inside. Maybe is maybe something you're thinking about. If you're in a place where it's going to snow a bunch, you could think about ways to enjoy maybe the snow instead of just staying inside. Bundle up and go outside still, and have a fun time in the snow. But it's important that you do try to continue to connect to nature. And so there were some recent studies that showed that even looking at nature, like if you're watching a nature documentary, helps you connect to nature more. If you have plants in your house, it helps you connect to nature more. You may be forced to do things even more virtually than you were before, because you're not able to go and visit on someone's back porch because the weather is too cold for that now. So you'll have to make sure that you're still reaching out. And so instead of, hey, my neighbor's going to come over for morning coffee, maybe you're reaching out and doing that in a more virtual way at that time.
Okay. From Charles, we have a question. With limited equipment, do the astronauts have to schedule their time to keep their well-being going? If they have to shower, if they have to treadmill, what do they have to do in order to keep going?
Yeah, so the schedule is a very big deal. We have a whole team of people that do nothing but manage the astronaut schedules. And so, there is one critical piece of exercise equipment on board everybody's got to use. And so you have the schedulers on the ground basically playing a giant Tetris game, trying to rearrange all the little parts to make sure all the schedules line up in a certain way so everybody gets their exercise time. And that's something we could probably lend to our own lives, is how can you build an effective schedule? My husband and I, every day we have to coordinate with the kids, watching the kids at home, and also getting all of our work meetings done. And so we have a little powwow right before we go to bed each night, and we say, what's going to be your big meetings tomorrow that we need to work on? How can we work around these things together? And so we are supporting each other that way, but we're definitely planning purposefully for all the needs that we need to get done every day.
Thank you. We have a question from Megan. Megan says, NASA astronaut training has always been regarded as a rigorous attempt at preparing for every outcome. In regards to mental and emotional health, can you share some of the problems that NASA anticipates?
Sure. So one of my earlier slides kind of had a list of things that we've encountered in research in these isolated environments. And these are everything from minor, tensions rising, increase in irritability, you're just kind of grating on each other's nerves because you've been up there trapped together for a while. To more severe, symptoms of depression. We've had some extreme examples happen in space. We had a crew member one time lost a parent while they were on a mission in space. And it was unexpected. And so that person needed some personal time to sort of reset their mind. And they were given, time, and their crew picked up the slack for about a week to allow that person to take some time and sort of process what they needed to, and kind of reset their mind. And so, we do, of course, have that psychological support, that very regular, very proactive psychological support on board, and they have training to deal with psychological issues they may encounter. And so, again, it comes back to, you can prepare yourself, do things that keep you mentally fit, but also feel free to reach out as needed, and make a point of doing so, even though that may seem scary, or some people see that as a weakness. It really is not. You have world-class folks, very mentally healthy folks that still get that support regularly.
You talked a lot about being in a group setting in isolation. What if you're all alone and having to cope? What are some tips for that person?
Yeah. So if anybody's seen The Martian with Matt Damon, that's a very extreme example of that. We send up small teams of folks, and typically that is a very isolating environment. You're not with a large group of people anymore. You're with a very small team. And so in some instances on the space station, they'll go, a couple days, 3 days without really interacting with anybody else because they're working on different tasks. And so if there's ways that you can connect or force yourself to schedule connections, that's very important too. So again, being mindful and purposeful, if you can, to find ways to break through that isolation. So I know folks, if you live alone during this pandemic time and you're very isolated, finding those people to have regular check-ins with, maybe you have a weekly check-in with someone, to make sure that you're not just kind of slipping into deeper and deeper isolation. But again, you need to make sure that you're being proactive as well.
Following up on that, we have a question from Emily. She says, how do you handle the feelings of, I'm over it, I want out of this, but it's physically impossible, just like this endless pandemic feeling? How do you deal with that?
Yes. So we've had a couple instances where astronauts' missions got extended. So they're already up there for months, and then all of a sudden they were asked to stay up there for a few more months. That is very challenging, and you certainly see psychological repercussions because of that. Not knowing when things are going to end is very tough. Um, and so a lot of it goes back to that coping mechanism. So can you reframe this in your mind? Um, you can either do sort of problem focused coping. So how can I change the situation I'm in? Maybe I can start doing things a little bit differently that will kind of change things up to work a little bit better for me, or emotion focused coping. So reframing your emotions in a way that you see this as a challenge that can be met. I've been living in this for this long. I can keep going. I've made it through this long. I can make it through longer. And then continuing to use those coping mechanisms, the support systems that you have to continue on in that way. And also, I would seek out, that last slide I had was training. I would seek out resources, like the NASA website that's on there, and see if you need to maybe put more tools in your tool belt that can help you as well.
And when there is light at the end of the tunnel and you're coming out of isolation, but you've been in for a long time, how do you retrain yourself to cope with that?
Yeah, that's a big issue for military folks, coming home from deployment, and we learn a lot from them to help the astronauts reintegrate too. So there's definitely, I think, going to be some changes in the way that the world works. Some things maybe in a more positive way. So try to think about if you've been able to connect virtually with people. Maybe part of your family is in a different part of the U.S. and you've stepped up the virtual meetings or something. Continue that more positive engagement after this is over too. So think about the positives that have come out of this. Maybe you figured out a new way to work, or a new way to make sure that you're getting your exercise, walking around the block every day. Don't lose those positive changes that you've changed as you go back into sort of our natural state of things.
Okay. We have two questions from Moses. You mentioned characteristics that astronauts are selected for. From your research experience, are astronauts selected for characteristics that enhance team psychological safety? And then the second part of the question are, what are some special ways that psychological safety impacts flight crews in long-term space missions?
Right. So we specifically choose people that are team-oriented, resilient, and that have demonstrated past success in teams. We also look for people that have good judgment. And so all these things sort of feed into creating a psychologically safe environment with the other crew on board. They also engage in lots of training to make sure that they're open and honest with each other, that they're supporting, they're doing those team care things. So the psychological safety is maintained on that team. And so, it's not just the point of, hey, we're gonna walk into this group that everybody likes psychological safety and we're gonna all just do it naturally. No, they very purposefully work on that skill and try to maintain that. And again, it's really being purposeful in your mindset and your behaviors and actions to maintain that with the folks that you're with.
Thank you. And we have a question from Anne. She says, as an introvert, I sometimes have trouble with reaching out to people. I prefer being alone. But during the pandemic, I found that I feel more lonely than alone. What advice would you give to people who aren't very social?
Yeah, so I think that a lot of that goes back to structure. So it's almost a way of forcing yourself to break out of kind of whatever you're feeling at that moment. So if you can create standing meetings, standing interactions with people, and so that way hey, every week I've got so-and-so that we're going to chat on the phone for half an hour or something. those small milestones that you know are going to happen regularly can really help you. It kind of takes the pressure off initiating things kind of in a new way all the time if you just have a standing schedule that you're sticking to. And so, everybody sort of knows the rules of engagement, the expectations are set up towards the beginning, and then you can continue on that standing meeting, that regular schedule, to help you not fall back into your natural routines that maybe aren't working for you.
Thank you. We have a question. Have there been any situations where upon returning, the astronauts had long-term challenges with isolation? And if so, what do they do about it? Is there therapy? Are there group sessions?
Yeah. So the astronauts, when they come back, they have regular meetings with their psych support team. These are very lucky folks. They have all of that stuff in place already, and it's part of their job. We, on the other hand, need to go and seek that kind of support out a lot of times. So don't feel shy again about seeking that out for yourselves. So the astronauts come back. They have those checkups with their psych support. They have they usually have, I'll call them sort of a buddy astronaut that's like the person that is on the ground while they're in space, and that they check in, or that person checks in on their families and things like that. And so they're able to sort of connect with that person in a very particular way that helps them. And then over time, we monitor them fairly closely. There's something called the TREAT Act that was passed in Congress a few years ago, and it's to monitor the astronauts' long-term health. And it's not just looking at the physical health of the astronauts, how they're responding to more radiation exposure, for example. It's also looking at the long-term health of going through these isolating experiences. And so, we all need to think about that in the same kind of way, that this is not just a one-time shot to deal with our mental health, but our mental health is a lifelong, sometimes challenging thing that we all need to make sure that we're doing the right things to maintain over time. And so, build up your skills and keep those skills fresh, and keep practicing those skills that help in your psychological health.
Okay, we have one last question here from Moses. What connection, if any, have you seen between having a sense of humor or seeking out humorous experiences as a means for preventing or coping with social isolation?
Yeah, that is a great question. That's actually part of our group living skill set that the astronauts are trained in. So appropriate humor, I guess I'll put that qualifier on there. Kind of know your audience and know what flies with your audience. But humor is a big part of it. So, stressful situations, that humor can be a pressure valve that relieves some of that stress. That humor can maintain closeness with other people, shared jokes, looking at things, in a humorous way together can maintain closeness with other people. So yes, it can work on many different levels. That helps you also reframe negative experiences too, if you can inject some humor and think about it in a different way too.
Thank you, Dr. Landon. Well, that's all the time we have for questions today. Attendees, at the end of the 4-part webinars, you will receive a survey that we would like you to fill out if you do have the time during the targeted research webinars. There's going to be one more of these coming up on October 22nd, the 4th part of this 4-part series. It's people working or not working in isolation, coping tools for the hospitality industry. The topic is, who am I? Finding your purpose in a period of unemployment. So for some of you who are furloughed or have been laid off, that is going to be a very relevant webinar for you. Please visit the Rosen College website and click on Professional Development in the Academic drop-down menu to find information about the upcoming webinars and to register for them. After the 4th part webinar, we're going to take a break for 1 week, and then we're going to come back with 2 more webinars after that. So please continue to join us through the month of November, but come back for the 4th part of this 4-part series next week. Also, you will note that Rosen College has some degree programs and some certificate programs to help you reskill and retrain yourself during this time of isolation, during this time of job loss, during this time of furlough, so that when you get back into the work field, you'll be ready to go. Thank you all for joining us today. We really appreciate your time, and do tune into our website and to our YouTube channel to rewatch these webinars if you have the time. The tips are very helpful. Thank you and have a great day.